President Donald Trump held his first cabinet meeting of 2026. Just a second ago, we showed you a live picture inside that room, watching for the headlines that happen. Typically, that room has the discussion that goes around the table and then, of course, questions to reporters. But this just happened. Reporters were asked to leave. No questions taken today. A lot of hot potatoes in the headlines today, so we'll be breaking all of those down, including President Trump sending in border czar Tom Homan to Minneapolis to try to bring some calm after the shooting death of ICU nurse Alex Preddy. Here's what Mr. Homan had to say about his presence in Minnesota. Listen.
Target enforcement operations should happen across the nation. That's what we've done for decades. And with target enforcement operations, I've done many of them. It just makes it safer for everybody. When we know exactly what we're looking for, what is his criminal history, what is his immigration history, where does he live, is he in an apartment complex versus a house, has he got a known record for having weapons, it's safer for everybody. Then we know what type of resources we need to go. And, it just makes this operation cleaner, more efficient, and it's proven less violence when we know exactly what we're getting into and we can take the necessary precautions to keep everybody safe.
Did you hear that? Cleaner, more efficient, less violence. That from border czar Tom Homan. Now also this. New video to our monitors of Alex Preddy confronting federal agents. You might think this is from the day Preddy lost his life, but no. This video, and you can hear it there, was 11 days before agents shot and killed Mr. Preddy. Watch. So this video confirmed by a Preddy family representative and then verified by CBS News partners at the BBC. Preddy is seen kicking and damaging the taillight of a government SUV. Federal agents then get out of the SUV and they tackle him to the ground. Then we are told they deployed chemical irritants into the street. This video does not show if federal agents detained Preddy after that January 13th incident, but it does give us a picture of his interactions with those federal agents in the days before he lost his life. So let's talk about it. Live to Minneapolis with CBS News correspondent Ian Lee. Ian, did Mr. Homan have anything to say about this new video of Alex Preddy?
Hi, Reed. He did have some comments on that. A lot of people are talking about this new video as it shows another side of kind of the friction that we've seen on the streets of Minneapolis. This is what he said about this new video. Take a listen.
I'm not going to come out and make any comments that I think is right, wrong. Do I have an opinion? Yeah. My personal opinion, but I'm not going to share that with you. I'm going to tell you, let the investigation play out and see where it goes. But again, the president, one of the words he said to me when I came up here, he said he didn't want to see anybody die. The less interference, the less rhetoric, the less, I have buried Border Patrol agents and I buried ICE agents throughout my career, and the saddest thing I've ever done is hold hand a folded flag to a wife or a child. I don't want to see anybody die, even the people we're looking for.
Now, Reed, Homan did say mistakes have been made. He didn't specify what mistakes were made in the operations ongoing here in Minneapolis. He says he wants to improve safety. He wants to be by the book. But he said, in his conversations with state, local politicians, as well as law enforcement, he says everyone agrees that safety is paramount. And something to come out of those meetings, which could help reduce the friction, is that when local authorities arrest someone who's undocumented, who has a criminal record, that information would be shared with ICE. And ICE could go then to that jail and pick them up. And he says that is critical because one ICE agent can essentially arrest one person in a jail because that's a secured facility. He says when that person is released, that's when you need multiple agents. You need agents to go to that house and make that arrest, but also security agents because of that friction, the protesters we've seen in the streets. He also said that, he criticized the local authorities, saying that, because there are sanctuary cities, that is creating that friction because local police cannot speak with federal authorities. But he said because of that change that they could start drawing down the agents here in Minneapolis. Reed?
Well, and the big question I have, Ian, is will any changes that happen in Minneapolis then be replicated in other cities, sanctuary or not, across the United States? I also want to ask you because, you know, we obtained that video of Mr. Preddy's encounter with federal agents days before he ended up dying. Anything from the Preddy family themselves who have now seen that video?
Yeah, so to your first question, Reed, you know, the Borders was pretty specific when he said that when you don't have local authorities talk to federal agents, especially when it comes to people who have a criminal record, who've been arrested, who are in jail, and they aren't picked up with ICE, they says that those dangerous people then, when they go back into the community, they are not only a danger for their communities, he says, but they're also a danger if their agents go to pick them up. He says his top priority is public safety and national security threats. He says he wants to get those people off the streets, but he didn't rule out arresting people who are just in the country undocumented. He said, we will get them too, they're just not the top priority. Now, when it comes to this new video, the Preddy family has reacted to it. They have said that that is Alex in the video, and they released a statement through their lawyer which says that nothing that happened a full week before could possibly have justified Alex's killing at the hands of ICE on January 24th. Now, his killing came 11 days after that video was taken, but when you watch that video, you can see he's kicking that government vehicle, destroying that taillight. The agents come out, they wrestle with him a bit. You can see that he was armed with a gun at that time too. They let him go, but it just kind of underscores that, again, friction we see between protesters and agents in the streets.
Ian Lee reporting live from Minneapolis. Thank you so much for that. So let's continue the conversation live to Washington and CBS News White House reporter Olivia Rinaldi. So Olivia, the president's cabinet meeting just wrapped moments ago, but I'm told precious little was said about the situation on the ground in Minnesota. Also, it was interesting to see at that table DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, who was pulled back from this Minnesota action.
Reed, it's good to be with you. Certainly the president did not spend a lot of time talking about what is going on the ground in Minneapolis. Instead, he pointed to secure border, record number of arrests for criminal illegal aliens in this country, but did not talk at all about Minneapolis. And in fact, what was even more interesting was DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, who earlier in the week, yes, was pulled back from Minneapolis, and there was a shift in the leadership structure there. She was at that cabinet meeting, and she did not speak. As you and I know, we have covered these cabinet meetings, and normally the president goes around and invites different cabinet secretaries to talk about what they've accomplished, especially on this cabinet meeting, given it was the first of 2026, the first since they celebrated 1 year of being in office. Here are some of the secretaries who did speak. Special Envoy Wickoff, but then Secretary Lutnick, Bessent, RFK Jr., Scott Turner, Chris Wright. It's talking about energy, housing, affordability, cost of those things. The president not even going near the issue of ICE and CBP in Minneapolis, not talking about that at all. Certainly very, very notable in an hour and 20-minute long cabinet meeting.
So what out of that meeting becomes the dinner time headline then, if these domestic issues, not the least of which the hotspot in Minneapolis is concerned? What will lead the story today out of that?
Yeah, there's a few things. I mean, the president announced that he will likely have an announcement next week about who he has chosen to lead the Federal Reserve. There's been a lot of speculation around this, who it could potentially be. He has talked about the Kevin Walsh and Kevin Hassett, who leads the National Economic Council in Washington, as potentially being people to follow up Powell. So that's notable. Write that down on the calendar for next week. The president also said he spoke with Putin, but did not say how or when or in what capacity, and if it was actually the two of them on the phone or perhaps through back channels, but said he asked him not to attack Ukraine for the next week due to some extreme cold in Kyiv. The president said that President Putin agreed to that, and that he said it was very nice that he agreed to do that. Also of note, and I know this is going to matter for a lot of Venezuelans here in the United States, but President Trump said that he's directing Secretary Duffy to reopen some of the airspace in Venezuela. That is notable because that airspace has been closed, obviously, since there were U.S. military action on the ground there on January 3rd, but also there really just haven't been any commercial flights going from the U.S. to Venezuela in a long time. So it's certainly notable there that the president is saying that they want to open up that airspace by the end of today, certainly opening it back up to any U.S. carriers who would be interested in sending flights there. And I know, as we have talked about, there are a lot of Venezuelan refugees and migrants here in the United States, and that's certainly welcome news for them. Lastly, on a potential shutdown, because we are looking at that this weekend, perhaps even just a partial shutdown, the president says he thinks they're getting close to avoiding that partial shutdown. They're working on it right now. They're trying to work on it in a bipartisan way. But again, Reed, we'll have to see if that's actually something that is feasible, if they're able to separate that DHS funding from the other bills that need to get passed to make sure that the government continues to be funded.
Olivia, Rinaldi raising a very good point there. Thank you so much.